Madam Aarti Khosla is the founder and the CEO, Center of Assessments for Excellence, Noida. Hearty welcome to you. Pleasure to have you, ma'am. And let's have your views.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sharma. I must really congratulate you for all your commendable efforts and the energy with which you are trying to enable this global sharing of thoughts and ideas. It was a privilege to listen to the previous speakers. And I know we have already overshot the time, so I would try to be as crisp as possible. I feel it's an important topic that I'm going to talk about. In fact, in the last 23 years, I've been associated with close to 1,000 educational institutions, including the schools, colleges, universities, the L&D organizations, the coaching segments. And I have traveled across the world, and I must say that they are all doing the same job. We are all doing the job that is called as nation building. If you ask a teacher what she does, she would say, I teach. But I truly believe that's kind of, undermining her work. She is rather creating an environment to foster the learning so that the holistic development of the learner can be ensured. Educators, in fact, they play the most important role in the entire education ecosystem for any country. And about education, I think we all know that. I don't even need to say that it enables the development of not only the intellectual skills and knowledge, but it also leads to an effective growth and development of the economy of any country. So I think this particular sector has a huge responsibility to ensure that our next generations, our learners, they become innovators, they become researchers, they become forward thinkers, critical thinkers, they become problem solvers, and above all, they should become resilient and happy human beings. On this platform today, while I was looking at this, most of the speakers as well as the attendees, they seem to be from the school education. So I will try and stick to the school education. For schools, we all know that there is a variety of stakeholders. Of course, learner is the prime interested party, but then it comes the parents, the guardians, the investors, the teaching staff, the non-teaching staff, the regulators, affiliation boards, accreditation boards, the vendors, and of course, many more. Generally about those education organizations, the views of all these stakeholders, they are influenced by their own interest in the schools. Now here, what I feel it becomes most crucial aspect is how would a school evaluate the degree to which the school is able to meet the requirements of not only the learners, but all these stakeholders. And even if they know that they are meeting the requirements of these stakeholders, how do they improve their ability to continue to do so? There is no yardstick. The schools cannot evaluate their own systems on their own. If we try and put ourselves in the shoes of the schools, I think we would understand that there are several challenges that they need to tackle with. But probably the gap here is that they don't follow a structured approach to address these challenges. Instead, what happens is they remain occupied with the everyday troubleshooting only. And then the same previous problems, they keep cropping up. Most of our schools, I'm not sure if a few of them have done it, but they are not even aware of the risk-based thinking. They would not have ever made an effort to streamline their systems and processes. Even with the use of technology, a lot of schools these days, they're using the ERP systems. But even with that, they've been able to manage only their administrative operations and without putting in a lot of emphasis, on the achievement of the learning outcomes. I had a privilege to represent India at the technical committee called TC232 at Geneva at ISO. And we at COE, we achieved our accreditation from the National Accreditation Board for Certification Bodies. And since then, we are trying and evaluating. We've certified some of the schools, colleges, universities, and training organizations in India, as well as a couple of other countries. While I was traveling to various countries, as Dr. Sharma also mentioned, it's the time for Asia. But across Asia, there are, even in spite of all those meticulous processes of the affiliations and accreditations that are there in the schools, still there are a lot of areas for improvement. And India has a very rich cultural heritage, a very a rich background of education system. So I'm very happy to know what Mr. Tripathi was sharing, that example of the Japanese school. So people across the world, they look at India as being the educational leader. And trust me, when I represent the country at ISO, it gives me goosebumps. I feel so happy that I'm talking about the Indian education system there. But they're all said and done, there are some glaring improvement areas where a lot of the top managements of the schools, they are struggling and they don't know what is the structured way to deal with it. I think the number one is they are not able to maintain consistency in the quality of education. Yesterday it was very good. Now with the change of the staff, with the change of the management, everything undergoes a major change. So maintaining the consistency, implementing the standardized practices, and providing the skill and competency-based education. We can't afford to wait for the skilling to start from the undergraduate level, and we can't wait for the college to own it. It's we at the school level that the vocational skills need to be taught. Another challenge that I have generally come across is that our curriculum and the pedagogy does not aim for holistic development. We are talking about the 21st century skills. We are talking about the reduction in the curricular content to enhance essential learning and critical thinking and greater focus on experiential learning. But at the same time, most of us are still stuck with the rote learning. So I think to build up those 21st century skills, we need to prepare our educators, we need to review our curriculum, we need to review the curriculum in line with the changing needs and trends of the community. Another challenge here is the competence of the educators themselves. We are expecting the schools to change as per the changing trends, but our educators who had probably done their teacher training program 20 years back, 15 years back, they have not been able to upgrade their skills, and they are the main drivers and they are the lifelines of the education system. So preparing them, training them is a task. But also at the same time, defining every key person's roles, responsibilities, accountabilities very, very clearly so that the educators get ample time to upgrade their skills. I think this is one area where most of the schools need to work. Another one is the review of the curriculum. Our assessments are never, directly linked to the learning outcomes. We have not been able to integrate our assessments with our teaching learning process. The assessments can no longer be a standalone process now. Assessment reforms are needed, competency-based regular assessment to test not only the analytical ability, critical thinking, but also the conceptual clarity. So maybe that kind of an integration is required. One last challenge that I can talk about is there is no regular monitoring system. There is no regular evaluation, or if I put it in a crude manner, there is no audit system in the schools. Nobody is there to see whether the overall system is focused on holistic governance, is focused on holistic development. And in order to provide confidence to all your interested parties in terms of the consistency of your systems, in terms of the effectiveness and efficiency of your systems, and defining your processes clearly and regular monitoring mechanisms, putting them in place, I think this is one big challenge that a lot of schools have not been able to do. So what we need to do is we need to manage the risks which can affect the outputs of our processes and the overall results of our educational systems. Now, of course, there are many more other challenges also, but just sticking to a few here in the interest of the time that I have. How do we answer all these challenges? I think standardization. In the morning also, I could attend the session for a few minutes. Somebody was talking about standardization. I think standardization is the answer to all these challenges. I am not sure how many of you are aware, but there is a global yardstick that's available. In the last 23 years, all these schools, colleges that I've been associated with, I've been trying to help them in putting their standards in place, their systems, their processes in place. And now just 2 years and a half, we got a new standard. It's called as the global standard. It's the international standard for management systems for educational organizations. It's known as ISO 21001. I'm not sure how many schools are aware of it. This is being followed by almost around 163 member countries across the world. ISO is the biggest standard development body, and this is for the first time that they have launched a standard for the educational organizations, not only the schools, but every educational organization that is involved with the delivery of the curriculum, which is involved with the teaching learning process. So this standard can be used as a yardstick to know where we are. This evaluation framework provides a new perspective to the educational organizations. In fact, let me tell you that during the pandemic situation, we all know that a lot of schools and higher education institutes, they've initiated a lot of innovative technology-based learning models, of course, for the sake of effective and continued delivery of education. However, there is still a huge need to focus more on the practices that can tomorrow compensate for all the lost instructional time, that can strengthen the pedagogy, that can be built on the hybrid learning models, maybe the integrated approaches in remote and distance education. So schools who have already implemented this standard, I am myself aware of a lot of schools in India and of course a lot of other countries who have already done it. They are the ones who have very seamlessly been able to respond to the pandemic situation, because the risk-based thinking, the process approach, engagement of people, all this was already ingrained into the systems. They have been able to kind of change the old mindsets of the staff as well as all the other beneficiaries, including learners, the parents, the regulators. For India, I think the current phase is the most important time in the Indian education sector. A complete transformation will probably happen through the new education policy, because this policy is focusing more on changing the mindsets, and standardization in the school segment has a special mention in the policy. So the standard that I'm talking about, EOMS standard, this is fully in line with the framework of the NEP 2020. And the standard covers not only the educational aspects related to quality of the system, but also the other compliances like health and safety, risk management, information security, the sustainable practices, food safety, the ethical practices, business continuity. In case of a pandemic situation like this one, how do you ensure that your operations continue and your business continues? Dr. Gulshan, I hope I have another 5 minutes.
Please go ahead, ma'am.
Thank you so much. So the key principles based on which the whole standard has been designed and developed, the first and the foremost principle is learner focus. So whatever activities we are implementing in our schools, they have to be focused on the learners, and everybody's thought process needs to be around the learners. The second important principle is the visionary leadership. So your leaders, whether it's, I'm talking about the school principal or the vice principal or the chairman of the school, everybody has to be a visionary person, has to be able to map the policies and practices with their objectives. They know what their vision and the mission is and how they are going to achieve it. The third important principle is the engagement of people. So engage everybody, all the stakeholders. And how do you do that? The standard has given you enough guidance on it. So standard has given you all those requirements that you can implement in your schools. The next important principle is process approach. So for every process, even Mr. Tripathi was talking about knowing what your input is, knowing what your desired outcome is, and how do you weave it into a process management. The next important principle that the standard focuses is improvement. Next one is the evidence-based decision making. So whatever decisions you take, all big and small decisions in your schools, even whether you want to go to a hybrid model of teaching learning or you want to come back to the contact classes, take this decision based on the facts, the evidences, collect a lot of data, analyze all that data, and put that learning to improve your systems. Another 3-4 important principles are, number one is the relationship management. So good relations with everybody. Social responsibility, which is very, very important for sustainability and for ensuring the long-term success of a school. In fact, the kind of behavior that we expect to implement these principles and values, it should be known to all our interested parties. Even your parents need to know what is the social responsibility of the school, and how is their contribution playing an important role, right? Another important principle that I'm reminded of is the access and equity. So be an accessible school. Be a school that is giving enough importance to all the learners with these special needs also. Ensure the access, participation, ensure their course completion. Learners are coming from different backgrounds. They may have various needs. So understanding their needs and providing them the support in terms of cultural, linguistic, psychological, and educational requirements. The last two important principles of the standard are ethical conduct. So demonstrating an ethical conduct at all the levels, having your policies that are talking about ethical conduct, whether it's related to your admissions, your assessments, your teaching, learning, or the other processes. Maintain integrity of all the research that you're carrying out, maintain integrity of your results. In case people break the ethical conduct rules, what can be the impact? Make it known, make it clearly known to everyone. And the last principle that it is talking about is the data security and protection. So schools, colleges, universities, we all know they are rich in data, and this data often comes from multiple sources. So from the student specific information to the housing information to the research work, the challenge is to bring all that information together. And as an interested party, as a parent, I should have full confidence that my data is going to be maintained with full care and confidentiality by the school. So having all those policies in place, this is what is going to be the focus area if you're implementing the standards. Somebody told me when I started working on this and I got involved with the ISO work at Geneva, somebody told me this is not going to work in India because this is not mandatory. No government tells you you do EOMS certification and only then we'll recognize you that you have sound systems. But, you know, in the last 2 years, thousands of educational leaders, including school principals, the owners, the leadership teams, they have come forward, they have attended our training programs, they want to understand what the standard is so that they can improve their systems. We have already evaluated, audited, and certified a lot of educational organizations. This itself shows that even if something is not mandatory in our country, people want improvement, people want transformation. And education is the fundamental to development and growth. The human mind can make possible all development achievements, from whether the health advances or the agricultural innovations or public administrations or an effective private sector growth. And how can all this happen? Only through transformation. So the standard is the most awaited sector specific tool. I always say that, and it's a powerful tool. In fact, this year, the government of India has also selected education as one of the 12 champion sectors in their plan of action. So we as experts, I'm only trying my level best. It's been more than 2 decades. I've been trying to make standardization an integral part of the education ecosystem, especially, I would say, in the time of this crisis. The standard can help us enhance the adequacy and suitability of our management systems. It can help us develop the skills that will tomorrow drive the employability, productivity, and ensure an overall progress of the nation. That's it from my side. I'll be happy to take up any questions on whatever I've shared.
Thank you very much. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Do you have any website of yours? You can just let it into the chat box so that we can share with others.
Sure.
We can just reach across everybody. Thank you very much, Madam R.P. Khosla, the founder and CEO, Center of Assessment for Excellence, Noida, that is Uttar Pradesh. Thank you very much. Management System for Educational Organizations. God bless you. Thanks a lot.